for a moment now to the evening ahead on 2. Assignment at 6:10 includes a report on Germany's nuclear dilemma with their plan to build a nuclear processing factory, a decision crucial to the country's nuclear power programme. And at 6:40, A Life with Crime, which this week focuses on the problems of the prison service. Following the recent troubles at Liverpool's Walton Jail, Ludovic Kennedy talks to the governor of Walton about the day-to-day pressures in one of Britain's largest prisons. After the news on 2, Life on Earth at 7:15 takes David Attenborough into the realm of the hunters and hunted, continuing his evolutionary story. Part 3 of Malice Aforethought is at 8:10. And at 9:05, we join with Radio 3 in stereo for a new production by the Vienna State Opera of Bizet's Carmen, with Yelena Obraztsova in the title role and Placido Domingo as Don Jose. Finally, at 11:30, another film from those of the 1960s, regarded as the best of British, Joseph Losey's study of the futility of war, king and country, starring Dirk Bogarde, Tom Courtenay and Leo McKern. That's the look of this evening on BBC2. Now it's time for News Review with Peter Woods.
Good evening. The start this week of the election campaign has been sadly marred by the murder of an MP. Mr. Harry Neave was killed on Friday by a bomb in his car as he left the House of Commons. He was Shadow's spokesman on Northern Ireland and an expert on anti-IRA security. 2 terrorist groups, including the Provisional IRA, have said in telephone calls they were responsible for the assassination. His death is a great shock not only to the Commons but also to the country as a whole, and there have been worldwide tributes. It was 3 o'clock when an explosion was heard. Police and other emergency services were on the scene in moments. It was half an hour before the victim was definitely identified as Harry Neave, the Conservative spokesman on Northern Ireland. The blast had been audible in the House but hadn't disrupted proceedings. It was minutes before MPs heard of the outrage.
Hey, all.
The emergency services took some time before they were able to get Mr. Neave out of the shattered Vauxhall, but all their rescue efforts proved in the end to be hopeless. Mr. Neave died in Westminster Hospital only 8 minutes after arriving. Mr. Neave's car was eventually taken away, but much more police work lies ahead. Mr. Neave, who was 63, had been Conservative MP for Abingdon in Berkshire since 1953. During the war, he was the first British officer to manage to escape from the notorious Colditz prison camp. Later, he took part for the prosecution in the Nuremberg trials of Nazi war criminals. He'd had a distinguished Commons career, though through ill health, he never held senior office in a Conservative government. He organised Mrs. Thatcher's victory as Conservative leader over Mr. Heath in the party vote in 1975. She made him Northern Ireland spokesman and also the man in charge of running her private office at Westminster. The first news to Mrs. Thatcher was of an explosion at the house. She didn't know then that it was Mr. Neve, her trusted aide and close personal friend, who had died.
What I can from my office.
Back at home, she knew by then it was Mr. Neve, and she spoke about him.
Harry was a person of such rare qualities. Perhaps no one knew that better than I. If ever you were in difficulty, there he was, absolutely staunch and true and strong. And yet when things were going well, he was always so self-effacing and just delighted with anyone else's success. You know, people remember him for a lot of things, perhaps most of all for the fact that he got out of Colditz. They don't remember him so much for the many kindnesses he did. He was the person, you know, who got through pensions for the over 80s because of this quiet, inner sympathy and compassion. Really a person, a wonderful person, of tremendous inner strength. And so have his family. And it's that that'll sustain them now. And just one more thing. Some devils got him. And they must never, never, never be allowed to triumph. They must never prevail. Those of us who believe in the things that Airy fought for must see that our views are the ones which continue to live on in this country.
Mrs. Thatcher cancelled all her engagements over the weekend. She was to have replied on Friday to the Prime Minister's ministerial broadcast last Thursday, after he'd announced the general election date. This is to be May the 3rd. The Prime Minister was forced to call an election after being defeated by one vote on Wednesday night on an opposition vote of no confidence. In fact, if one Labour MP had been well enough to vote, the government would not have fallen. The next day, by tradition, Mr. Callaghan went to see the Queen, and then told the Commons that Parliament would be dissolved. On television, he started his campaign.
Now, one question that will come up time after time in the next few weeks is this. Will a sudden reversal of policy, a jerk in the entirely opposite direction, really do the trick? I want to say quite plainly that I do not believe there is any magic solution to these problems, and it would do great harm if the country was suddenly to go into reverse on the range of policies that have brought us through so far. Then there's another question. How can we ensure peace in industry and avoid the disruption that we've seen? I believe that cooperation and partnership, not confrontation, will serve us best.
After the government defeat in the Commons, it suffered another one next day in the by-election in Liverpool. The Liberal candidate, David Alton, won Edge Hill, until then a safe Labour seat, by over 8,000 votes. He'll probably be the shortest-serving MP in history, as he'll have to fight the seat again in May. Labour came second, and 5 other candidates, including the Conservatives, lost their deposits. The Liberals were delighted about their general election prospects, though the other main parties said it was a freak result, and this was strongly denied by the Liberal Party leader, David Steele.
Absolutely not. That was said when I won my by-election in 1965. And, you know, I don't think people, whether in Edge Hill or Roxburghshire, like being called freaks, and nor are the candidates freaks. The fact is that we have been concentrating our limited resources as a party on a small number of seats over the last 2 or 3 years, and this is the first time that a by-election happens to have occurred in one of them. Now, of course, the background is of enormous hard work by David Alton and a Liberal team there, but the same amount of hard work has been going on in other seats, and I'm very confident that we're going to go into the next House of Commons with a much enlarged band of Liberals. In fact, the swing was so big in Edge Hill that if we got that sort of result, it could be as many as 50 Liberal MPs.
So now the election battle is joined, but first the Commons must get through some essential business. For one thing, there must be a neutral budget, and this will be presented to the House on Tuesday. Wednesday will be the last day of the session, and here's the timetable after that. Parliament will be officially dissolved on April the 7th. After the general election on May the 3rd, the new Parliament will meet on May the 9th for swearing in, and the state opening will be on May the 15th. There's already a controversial note. May the 3rd is fixed as the date of some local elections in England and Wales. The government has decided these must go ahead, and the same ballot boxes will be used. Well, now we go abroad, where the main story has been the signing in the United States of the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. It took place in a grand ceremony in a tent on the lawn of the White House in Washington. The lawns of the White House are seldom used for official business, but they were the setting for an historic ceremony. Nearly 2,000 people attended. There were delegations from all three governments and all the members of Congress. The peace treaty was in 3 languages, Arabic, Hebrew and English. Mr. Carter signed as witness to the 2 other leaders' agreement.
Let's have a handshake before we move. Congratulations. I'm so proud of both of you. God bless you both.
Let there be no more wars or bloodshed between Arabs and Israelis. Let there be no more suffering or denial of rights. Let there be no more despair or loss of faith. Let no mother lament the loss of her child. Let no young man waste his life on a conflict from which no one benefits. Let us work together until the day comes when they beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
You have worked so hard, so insistently, so consistently to achieve this goal, and your labors and your devotion bore God-blessed fruit.
There's been jubilation in Egypt and Israel, but also, as expected, some strong opposition to the treaty. There have been strikes and bomb explosions, and a day of mourning was declared by Palestinians in Israel. There have also been protests by Israeli settlers, some of whom will lose their land, especially in Sinai. Under the new Israeli-Egyptian peace agreement, all Israeli forces have to leave Sinai in 2 months. The agricultural settlers must leave as well.
Sadat, very good and very good people. Welcome, Carter, and welcome, Sadat here.
Chanting crowds reached about 20,000 and displayed their excitement in strange ways. Other Arab states opposing the treaty have been meeting in Baghdad to decide what to do with Egypt. As often in the Arab League, opinions have been divided. Libya and Syria walked out for a time, along with the Palestinians, because the others didn't want to be too severe on Egypt. But after more talks, it seems they may have got their way. Baghdad also saw a big march against the treaty.
بدنا نقف وقفة على قلب رجل واحد نواجه هذا المصير ونواجه هذه المؤامرة.
The four-day conference was adjourned for 24 hours in an attempt to arrange some compromise among the divided Arab foreign ministers.
كل جيوشنا في الجبهة الشرقية والجبهة الغربية لسه سليمة. بدنا نشوف قديش كيف بدنا نحارب وكيف بدنا. أنا بعرف إنه في
Arab states, too, have had a hand during the week in a big rise in oil prices from the producing countries. The OPEC ministers decided to add almost another 9% to their charges from today, April the 1st. It could mean petrol being almost £1 a gallon by the summer, as well as higher airfares and holiday costs. One cause, the experts say, has been that the shortage of oil from Iran has upset the market. And that country has also been having trouble from minority tribes in the north who want independence. Among them is the Turkoman tribe, who live partly in Iran and partly across the border in the Soviet Union. There have been battles in the area between the tribesmen, the army, and the pro-Khomeini Islamic irregulars. Iran's new government is finding it difficult to hold the country together. Minority groups like the Turkoman tribes are struggling for their own independence, often with the backing of left-wing guerrillas. With the army's help, pro-Khomeini forces are now in charge, but the fight isn't over. Rebellions in Kurdistan and here on the Russian border are the new regime's biggest worries. For them, the fear of communism has replaced the hatred of the Shah. The Shah of Iran, who went into exile from the country 2 months ago, has now moved his home again. He and his family have gone to the Bahamas from Morocco. It's thought they'll stay there for some time and then go on somewhere else, possibly to Brazil. Meanwhile, another famous head of state, President Amin of Uganda, now looks to be in serious trouble. The forces invading the country from Tanzania are now reported to be laying siege to his capital, Kampala, and he's believed to have fled northwards. Thousands of Ugandans and foreign residents from Kampala have been crossing the border into Kenya. There's no way of telling exactly what's going on in Uganda, but reports indicate that President Amin's army has disintegrated. The road into Uganda is closed. With the invading Tanzanian forces apparently in control of much of the country, the situation for President Amin is grave. President Amin may be saved, however, by the large numbers of Libyan troops now said to be fighting in Uganda. In the United States, there's the threat of a major nuclear disaster at a power plant at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Radiation leaked into the air after the cooling system failed. Thousands of people may be evacuated. The trouble started in the turbine house when one of the cooling pumps failed. Then a leak developed in the reactor unit, releasing radioactivity through an air vent.
Evacuate the area now.
Officials have been playing down the emergency, and there's little sign of any panic. Back home, the end at last of the long dispute in the hospital and ambulance services. The Militant Public Employees Union, UPI, outvoted by the other unions involved, has called off its action. But there's no sign yet of the even more serious dispute in the civil service coming to an end. A pay offer this week was turned down, and 500,000 people may be called out on a one-day strike tomorrow. There's also a threat of action by civil servants at ports and airports during the Easter holiday. There seems no end to the troubles of northeast England as a result of the continuing winter weather. This week, for a change, there's been heavy flooding, particularly in County Durham and Cleveland. Weathermen say it's been the wettest March in the north since records began, averaging 3 times the normal rainfall. Further south in East Anglia, nature has struck in another way. There's been a plague of starlings. 1.5 million of them have come from Central Europe to winter on a farm in Norfolk. It's estimated that every year nearly 1.5 million starlings arrive, causing a great deal of damage. The Post Office has introduced a new system to give information to the public by means of television screens. A British invention called Prestel. It links the telephone service to private TV sets so that people can receive a wide range of computerized information on their screens in their own homes. Altogether, there are 50,000 pages of information that companies are paying for to put out. Much of the information provided is for the individual, like house prices and where homes are available. Business news is the mainstay of Prestel. Company reports and city prices can be fed directly to any office or home. Deaf viewers may like to know that in America there's soon to be more on television for deaf Americans. 2 of their 3 main networks are to join up with the public broadcasting service to bring this about. Eventually, they hope to provide subtitles for up to 20 hours of programs a week. As with the BBC's CFAX system, viewers will need and must pay for a special decoder in their sets, and only those people will see the subtitles. Other viewers will see the ordinary uncaptioned programs. There'll be a royalty of £4 on the sale of decoders, which will go to help pay the cost of subtitling. And the American government has promised £1.75 million to help the captioning centre to start work. It'll be some time before they can show results, but we'll keep you informed of the developments. The BBC has been working on the same system of subtitling for programmes for some months now, and we hope that you'll be able to see the start of the results of this by the end of the year. There's been another record win on the football pools this week by a girl from West Glamorgan. She received her cheque of nearly £900,000 at a special ceremony last Wednesday. Irene Powell won with her first pools entry. The win coincided with her engagement and birthday, both last Sunday. She didn't bother to check the results, and then the pools man called at her Port Talbot home. Her fiancé, Ian Mortimer, shares the fortune. But he says he'll stay at work. He's a diesel fitter, because he thinks he's too young not to be kept busy.
Can we spin round this way now? I'll come and get some shadow. Irene!
At another gathering in London, a famous face, Sophia Loren. The book is described as her official biography. It's been written by a professional author and tells of her progress from childhood in the Naples slums to international stardom.
Will you please leave the stage?
Signora, sto lasciando che sembra la più bella.
I'm being asked to move in each direction.
One of Britain's most popular comedians, Eric Morecambe, left hospital on Wednesday nearly 2 weeks after suffering a heart attack.
I've got the radio. I'll wait to hear what Ernie says again.
Have you missed him, Eric?
Hey?
Have you missed him?
No, he's upstairs. He is. On a shelf in a little alcohol bottle.
Seriously, though, how are you feeling, Eric?
Pardon?
Seriously, how are you feeling?
Great. Absolutely marvellous.
What's he
You're looking good.
Never
Looking
felt
good.
better. All right, now come on, let's arms in. Arms in. Can you hold that?
Yeah.
Yep. Lovely.
Eric, what
ready
did you
now?
miss most about being inside? What was the thing you missed most?
Hey?
What did you miss?
Well, the wife's here, I can't tell you. The doctor said I can kiss the wife.
Anything else?
No, I mustn't get too excited. That's why I can kiss the wife.
What's the doctor's verdict now, Eric?
Oh, she's looking at me there. It was one of those looks sort of like the
I had to
dentist.
think about it, actually.
Yes.
What was the hospital cocoa like?
Excellent. It's marvellous stuff. It's green.
You've obviously got to take it easy for a bit, though, presumably.
Well, if I can get a bit, I'll take it easy, yes.
You must have rehearsed that one.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't know you were going to say it, did I? No. But thanks, and there's the quid. Lovely.
What's the doctor's verdict, though? You've got to...
Very good. Very good. I'm not really here at the moment. I am a recording.
He's going to rest.
I've got to
several
rest.
Weeks.
For a couple of weeks, is it?
Several.
Several.
But when do you hope to get back to work?
I hope to get back to work at the end of, round about the end of June, July. I'll see you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Yes, intensive care unit, please. See ya. Bye-bye.
See you on the box.
The irrepressible Eric Morecambe. And finally tonight, the week's big sporting event, the Grand National at Aintree, won by Rubstick, which started at 25 to 1. Zongolero came second at 20 to 1, and Rough and Tumble was third. Only 7 horses finished the race, but it was a fine climax. So we'll say good night and leave you to watch it.